What's up guys? I wanted to talk a little bit about the rear disc conversion kit for the first gen 4Runner. Not specifically this kit, but what you have to add to your truck in order for this kit to be safe, usable, and to maintain the ability to have an emergency brake.
Help! Stop! Please, it's an emergency!
So when converting from drum to disc on these trucks, you're looking to spend around 620 bucks before shipping. You could get it from Legends Direct, LCE Performance. Plenty of companies sell this kit, but one thing you'll find is that when eliminating the drum brakes from the rear and adding disc, you are also eliminating your emergency brake capability, which happens to be and needs to be mechanical. So in order to complete the conversion, you need to buy the transmission mounted e-brake, mount specifically to the transfer case. And basically what it does is it adds an additional disc, a caliper mount or bracket, and your actual caliper, as well as some various linkage parts as well to go with that kit. The problem is these kits are not very good, and it just happens to be the only one out there. That's pretty vague, right? Saying they're not very good, but I feel pretty confident in saying that the design of it is just not very good, mainly because it is a floating caliper that is both mechanical and it is pulled by a lever from another lever from a cable which attaches to your factory e-brake pull. Not a big deal there, right? However, the bracket that the caliper floats in, it doesn't hold the caliper very well because it is just simply a laser cut or plasma cut piece of 1/4 inch sheet metal. Now that laser cutout is in the shape of the caliper, but there's just not enough holding the actual slide portion of the caliper during both the application of the brake or no application of the brake and just driving down the road. So what ends up happening is you hear a little bit of rattling, a little bit of jiggling, and that just puts a lot of wear on the caliper itself, and it just sounds terrible. It just sucks.
You suck!
You just spent over $1,000 to convert your truck over to disc brake, and now the emergency brake is rattling, and there's really no solution in sight yet. We'll get to that. The other part of it is because it's only being secured by the laser cut bracket, just basically a little cutout like a puzzle piece slides in there. The actual rotor itself is kind of keeping it in position, but as soon as you go to apply the emergency brake, it pulls the lever, and basically the lever just goes between a kind of a jack bolt to give you more brake pressure to adjust it, and a little nose, a steel nose. So when that lever tries to slide past that bolt and that little nose, because it's a wedge, that's what applies the brake. Now, when you're pulling the e-brake, it's pulling, trying to attempt to pull that lever, but if the caliper is not held straight and it allows the caliper to twist even on the rotor itself, the brake application is not 100% because a lot of that energy is not being transmitted to the pads itself to give you that squeeze that you need. It is twisting, and you're getting only partial contact of the pads on the actual rotor itself. Now that's sort of a long-winded explanation to bring us to our main point, which is a solution for those that have already purchased this kit and are pretty much just dealing with it. Now, if you're on the fence about converting to rear disc and adding the transmission mounted e-brake, this solution is going to apply to you as well if you're willing to do the work. Now, a lot of guys are just not willing to do the conversion because they've heard such bad things about that brake. And I'm sure there's other guys out there that have come up with way more intricate and probably better solutions than I did. But I just kind of worked with what I had and went about it in the cheapest way possible so that it is something that you guys can do on your own at home, if that makes any sense. Let's just get right down to it. The e-brake kit is very expensive. The caliper is just a Chinese go-kart brake that you could buy from Amazon. But the one thing that really annoys me is you get on websites like All Pro Off-Road to get a replacement pad. All Pro Off-Road was selling for $41.10 a piece, just a little pad, not two pads, just one little tiny pad. And for the hell of it, took the picture of the caliper itself and did a reverse image search, and it popped up on Amazon. I'm like, That looks just like it. That caliper, 2 pads, the bracket we're going to use for the modification that I'm going to talk about, and I think some various bolts, nuts and bolts. 25 bucks for everything.
What?
Brand new caliper, brand new pads, and the bracket we need for like 25 bucks on Amazon. Link in the description below. Now, I know a lot of you might be saying, well, maybe the kit comes with a better quality caliper. I'm here to tell you, side-by-side comparison, they look identical. And because this isn't a brake that is going to be constantly utilized for stopping the vehicle, more so for holding, I feel perfectly confident in saying that I think it's more than capable of doing the job. It looks identical, same bolts, same coating, same pad.
Same, but different, but still same.
Literally everything is the same from one to the other. I think they just found something online that would work, something that was cheap, threw a big sticker price on it. There you have it. First things first, you're going to want to remove about 5/8 worth of material from the bracket. One side or the other doesn't really matter. Just make sure you do your cut nice and straight. I use a milling machine to get everything nice and flat. You don't have to do that. You can use a belt sander. Just make sure it's nice and flat so that it sits nice and flush against the existing bracket. Make sure those tabs on the existing bracket and the slides on the new bracket line up perfectly before you weld. It really pays to take some time to grind off some of the paint from the new bracket and some of the zinc coating from the existing bracket so that your weld is nice and strong. If you opted to get a new caliper like I did, you're going to have to knock that pin out and rotate the lever to the other side, then reinstall the pin into the other hole so the orientation is correct for the arm. You're going to want to install the actual caliper to make sure that is sliding properly, and on the actual slides I used a little bit of anti-seize. You can use grease, just don't use too much, you don't want it to contaminate the pads. When all said and done, your fitment should be a lot more secure than it was. Just make sure everything is sliding freely before you do the final installation. Quick test of the e-brake holding function. I would have never been able to do this or trusted to do this before. The truck is in neutral. My wife's 2018 TRD off-road is sitting right there. Could very easily smash into it. It holds perfectly. Thing's gripping good, no twisting. So now all that force, instead of being twisted up on the actual caliper itself, it's being transmitted directly into the rotor instead of twisting and losing a lot of that energy. So I think this was a huge success for me. Now I have a functional e-brake and you guys can too. Thanks for watching. Just gotta twist this, right? You wanna jack it up a little bit more? Pull it back again, just like you did. There you go, hang on. There you go. Good job. Whoa! I'm so high up. Ah!
Be careful.
Ah! All right, that's high enough.